Hey there, Bright Lake family, it's Ted. I wanted to come to you today with a market update. I've been getting a lot of questions about all the volatility going on in the markets lately. Essentially, since the beginning of the year, the markets have been, kind of giving back some of those gains we saw late in 2024. And really, that's happening for a couple reasons. I would say it really boils down to two primary things. Essentially, everything going on with economic policy. So think what's been going on with tariffs, what's been going on with the discussion about potential new tax bills passing, and certainly everything going on with the topic of DOGE and government efficiency. And with that, of course, not just economic policy has been causing all the volatility. Certainly also, as we've talked many times about before, fiscal policy. What's been going on at the Fed with interest rates and their consideration of whether or not they should lower rates. Of course, this dovetails a lot with the discussion around inflation as well as GDP, some of those economic vital signs, again, as we've talked about before. Essentially, the markets absolutely hate uncertainty, and they don't care, or it doesn't care, where that uncertainty comes from. And so especially over the last several months, there has been a broad discussion around tariffs. And, whether or not it's been only just the negotiation tactic or not, the market has had a really hard time figuring out exactly what to expect when it comes to tariffs. And I think we actually have good news on this topic, because after all this, back and forth on this discussion, we are actually seeing clarity now. And I think that clarity, that I'll say a measure, if you will, of certainty, is really, really good for the markets. President Trump has talked about this Liberation Day coming on April 2nd, specifically referring to when these new tariffs are going to be implemented. But we've actually gotten a lot more specific guidance from the administration on exactly what that looks like. And so it's not these broad sectors as has been discussed or thrown out there. It's actually pared down to 15 countries specifically. And so, we'll see ultimately that start to take effect. But instead of, again, it being this broad brush, it's actually very specific now, and the market's able to digest that much better. So we're hoping that actually creates some stability in the markets where they have been very volatile. On the fiscal policy side, the Fed met, Jerome Powell came out, and he said that they are not going to lower interest rates this month. So we'll be looking, of course, at the next meeting here in about 6 weeks. Depending on when you watch this video, it could be sooner. But they said a couple things that are really important. They do still anticipate lowering interest rates later this year, but they also revised their expectations on GDP growth, essentially how much the economy is expected to grow this year. They revised that down. That's not a positive economic sign at all. And then they also revised their inflation expectation up. So they're expecting the economy to grow slower and inflation to be actually a little higher than originally expected. And so I love the fact that we're getting some clarity on what to expect with tariffs. That's really helpful for the markets. However, there is still this underlying question around fiscal policy, around the growth in the economy, that GDP and inflation number specifically. So that is what we are continuing to focus on for the next 30 and 60 days to see if that starts to move at all from here. Obviously, these topics can be really confusing and nuanced, and they can even generate more questions. So as always, we're here for you. We're entirely at your disposal. If you have any questions or want to discuss these things at a deeper level, feel free to give us a ring. We'd be more than happy to talk through them with you one-on-one. As always, we here at Bright Lake believe you should have hope in a bright future. And even despite some ups and downs, we really still believe in that ethos. And that's what I wanted to leave you with today. I'll see you next time.